Hello and welcome, people. We're here to discuss, well, not just UFC 263, but also anything and all things combat. We'll also be here tomorrow night for the Justice Huni versus Paul Gallen fight. This is still the same people as Grange TV, but now it is the Fair One podcast. And yes, man, we're here to discuss UFC 263 last night. I'm just here to have a chat, guys. So the same as always. So anything that people write, anything that people want to ask, anything that people want to say or contribute, people nice, then we will discuss and we will talk about it. I don't even know where to kick off. It was a great card. It was a really good card. I don't know what to kick off with. If we kick off with the main event, which undoubtedly we will speak about it. So maybe we'll kick off a little bit further down the card. And maybe what do we do? What people thought of Leon Edwards versus Nate Diaz. How you feel that potentially, because you never know what can happen, but that Leon Edwards would match up against Usman. They've already fought once, but how they match up now, what they look like against each other, I don't know. I was very, very impressed with Leon. I'm always very impressed with Leon. Having said that, I'm also I was really impressed with Nate's comeback, to be honest with you. One of the things, though, that I don't know is in a 5-round fight, how two things happens. One is, how does Leon Edwards stay off the cage? I don't know. How does Leon Edwards stay off the cage against someone like Usman? I've seen get pushed cage, fade, as I said, and he potentially could fade in 5-round fights, as he does. He even tends to fade a little bit in 3-round fights. So now looking at that, how do you guys see Leon Edwards versus Usman going, and how does how does Leon stay off the cage if he can? Can he stay off the cage? How does he stay off the cage? And does he stop? How does he stop Usman? Who I don't think Usman's going to stop coming the whole way, the whole 5 rounds. And I think he'll set a different type of pace to Nate, but I do think he'll get Edwards down. Ofon says, "Oh damn, refreshed my YouTube at a good time. Glad to have you, Ofon. Glad to have you back on here, mate, and good to see you's. Good to see you on here." Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and let me know what you guys think. I've also seen that, I'll say Steve Booth says, "G'day Fab, you legend. Rob versus Izzy, let's go. Imagine if Nate took it seriously, what he could have done with the first 4.5 rounds. Proof that marijuana doesn't affect cardio." Ofon said, "For those, I was shocked and knocked him at the end of the 5th. If it went another 1 or 2 rounds, I feel Nate could have beat him. Laugh out loud. You too, sir." If it went another 1 or 2 rounds, it would have been a different fight, though. It would have been a 6 or 7 round fight, and I think, it will be completely different. I think that Leon did demolish Nate for the most part, but Nate's comeback was huge. In fairness, I did say at the start that I thought that would happen, that I thought Nate would come back if Nate didn't get stopped. I've been saying that for quite a bit. Joshua Wilcox says, "Have you talked about Brad Riddell yet?" No, I have not. We've just started, open for discussion anyway. We will work our way through the card. I used to do it in an order, but I don't know. Let's just start with Brad Riddell then. What do we do with Brad Riddell? He's won a whole bunch of fights in a row, 6 or 7 fights in a row. I was impressed with the Drew Dober fight. I want to see him against Makhachev or Gregor Gillespie. I'd like to see that kind of fight for Brad. I think that'll show you a lot where he's at with his grappling. I think Islam just beat Drew Dober, and he just beat him convincingly. I'd like to see him fight Islam Makhachev. Ophon says Leon versus Usman. I don't know. I'm not sure. They've both improved. Yeah, I just see that. Muhammad says Usman is too big for 170. He will smash everyone who is not Colby. I don't know how necessarily Leon would stay off the cage against someone like Usman, and Usman loves to push people up against the cage, and I think that Leon's been pushed up against the cage a fair bit by other people. I don't see he does have the one-stop shop power to stop Usman coming forward. I think Usman's smart, he's savvy, he's not going to just sit there and take shots. I think the leg kicks could cause a problem for Usman. I think that Leon is very tricky, and I think his grappling is really good, but I'd like to see how that fight goes. Economy says all Nate's fights should be 6 rounds. You said if Leon didn't do enough to keep Nate off and respect him, that it could be a long night for him. You were right when he started fading the second half of the 5th. Ophon says, why do they have O'Malley fighting the rank 41 guy on the Conor vs DP3 card? Striking out and grappling. Nor the grappling as well. As striking, I think that Leon is a much better striker than Burns, but I think Burns does have crazy power, but that's crazy power as well. He doesn't have the striking of Leon Edwards. He'll have more power, but he's not as fluid with his striking, and that's another reason why when he comes out, swings hard and wild early on in the fight, and he can do that with impunity because he doesn't care if he gets taken down. So it's a little bit different. Burns and him are a little bit different, but he also doesn't have the groundwork that Burns does. Christian Laurent says, hey Fab, do you see Brad besting if he can keep the fight standing for a round? Grigor seems like a monster of the grappling in this division. However, his chin may still be in question. I don't know if his chin's in question because of the Kevin Lee fight you're talking about, because the Kevin Lee kick would have knocked out a small pony. Grigor, I think it'll be an interesting fight. I think on the feet, Grigor, with all due respect to him, has nothing to offer Brad. But I think in the grappling department, Grigor's on a different planet as well. That's why I wanted to see that fight. That's what made that fight so interesting. You have that striker versus grappler matchup, and it's almost as bad as pure as you can get it. Although of course Brad can grapple, and of course Grigor can stand. He's got some tidy boxing, but it'd be no secret as to what each one of those guys wants to do. So that's what it would excite me about that matchup. Joshua Wilcox says Nate seemed cold for 4 rounds. Yeah, Nate, man, that's what was going to happen in that fight every single time. Joshua Wilcox says he takes a while to adjust to people's style. It's not just that, dude. Like, people wear themselves out with him, and Nate just keeps coming and keeps coming and keeps coming and tires people out just by coming in his durability and his toughness. Not a way that I'd say to people to fight, though. Leon doesn't seem to take too many risks, so I see him slowly losing the fight to Usman. I think Usman is a tough matchup for Leon, but I hope that Leon gets that fight. That's what I do hope. Yo, so does that mean you are picking Wonder Boy versus Burns? I don't know, man. It's a tough one. Because Burns does have the power to knock anyone out. He does have big power in his hands. And in those first 2 rounds, I think he's very, very, very dangerous on his feet as well, just because he can swing hard and fast with impunity. I don't know how much of a step Wonder Boy has lost. I think he's lost a fair bit of a step. And I also think that we can get with that push. I don't know who to pick in that one. A few years ago, I would have said Wonder Boy. Mellow Man says, is his tendency of leaning back when opponents are striking, leaving his body open? Why doesn't his opponents attack his body much more often? It is a thing that you want to attack the body when you know someone leans back, but Israel's also the thing is, and it's great, I'm not knocking this, and I love these conversations, I love doing this. But one of the things that we have is like, and I'm not against that, I'm glad, is shows like this one that do the post-fight analysis. But I try and do a little bit different. I try and just rather have a conversation about the fights rather than give this like really broken down post-fight analysis. It's not really real. It's like you can't say, oh, see, when he had him leaning back, he should have struck the body in this scenario, because it happens so quick in the fight. And of course, hindsight's always 2020. So yes, in short, in a nutshell, you should be striking the body as much as you can with someone like Israel. But the other thing, Israel doesn't just lean back. Israel leans back and counters. So when you're dropping your level to go for his body, he's countering. A good combination to use are things like an overhand right step through left kick, like Jan did, or combinations of that, or kick the legs. Will did that in Glory and chopping the legs, but he was doing that with bigger gloves, and it's harder to get the shots in. Israel's very sneaky with the way he throws those shots. Yeah, man, it doesn't I don't know. I think, yes, that you should be throwing those shots over the top, but that doesn't mean that you're going to be able to do it. You know what I mean? That doesn't mean that you're going to be able to do it. You should. You 100% should, and you're 100% right. But you got to be careful. This guy counters from a lot of different angles. What he does is not just lean back. Watch him when he fights. He's very, very smart. He's able to slide back out of range. So you're throwing stuff, and he's out of your range as well. He's not just leaning back a lot of the times. And other times, what he does is he scoots back as he changes angles, which is very, very hard to do. So you're also the other guy, the guy that's attacking, like say Vettori in this situation, he has to make those reads, so he's not, sometimes you think he's going to slide back, but he just leans back. And that's what makes Israel such a clever fighter. The other thing he does is puts his hand out, right? And you start to see it. And I was commenting on this during the fight. He'll stick his hand out, but I said it before about him as well. He sticks his hand out, and his reach is so long. He's an 80-inch reach, but his legs are long. His torso, he's actually got a long torso. Was he still back? You are not within his reach. Like you can't reach him, but he can reach you. You are now in his reach. So when he leans back a little bit and you've stepped in a little bit, just a tiny bit, you're in his space, he hits you on those counters. He's very clever like that, Christian Laurent says, in Gregor's last fight, he did get wobbled by De Lima in the first round. That he did. But testament to his chin, he survived. So yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen enough of him to say that guy's chinny, In however many fights like that, he hasn't. It's not like he gets chinned every second. Having said that, against someone like Gregor, against someone like Brad Riddell, you don't want to get hit in the face if you have proclivities to being knocked out. We've got to see Edwards versus Masvidal. I agree. I would love to see Edwards versus Masvidal, but I would like to see Edwards have a shot at the belt first. Brutus says, Hola Fab, el fair one. Thank you, sir. Ophon says, a mellow man, because he's a scary counter striker. Yes, sir. Yes, he is. Yayo says, are we getting to the point, just like GSP and Silva, where people are less impressed by decision wins in title fights? I am not. People might be. People don't understand the stakes you're fighting for. You know what I mean? People don't understand that you're not only fighting the best guys, because that is one thing. You're fighting the best guy in the division every single time. So it's hard for you to just have nothing but KOs. But what people don't understand is that these guys are all studying you. So everyone in the middleweight division is studying Israel. Everyone at flyweight studying Brendan Moreno now. Everyone, that's what every single person's gunning for. And so it's hard for you to stay champion. It's hard for you to get the reads on people or surprise people like you would have before, because every single person is watching you and getting the reads. I don't know what that means, Christian Laurent, the Bogan Fight League. Ofan says, but also I thought Colby would get demolished by Usman and it was an incredibly close fight. I did not think Colby would get demolished by Usman, though, myself. Ofan said that, but I didn't think that. I fight to stand as well. I think, yeah, I don't know right now because Usman's got that I'm the champion and he's just in that flow state, so he'll be very hard to beat. Who do you think has more potential to become lightweight champion, Dan Hooker or Brad Riddell? That's a tough one, man. It's a tough one because Dan Hooker's right there, dude. Dan Hooker's had some perler fights with some of the best guys in that division and beat them, and then come to close decisions against guys like Poirier, and arguably, he won a lot of those rounds. So I don't know, I think Dan Hooker's right there, right there. Dan Hooker's, both of these guys, the thing that's really interesting with both these guys is that Dan Hooker, whilst Dan Hooker and Brad Riddell, Dan Hooker's not new to the UFC, but he might be new to some fans. But Dan Hooker's been around fighting for more than 10 years. He's been fighting. I remember him fighting in the local stages. So I've always watched Dan Hooker. He's fought friends of mine in the local leagues, friends or guys that I've trained or whatever. And so I really go for Dan Hooker all the time, and he's been around for a long, long time. And Brad Riddell, whilst he's still relatively new to the UFC, not really, but still relatively new, he has a massive kickboxing background, so I don't know which one of those is reaching. I don't know how much more improvement they have left in them, because they're both high level fighters that have been going for a long time. Ofon says, if Wonderboy wins this fight, I don't think they can deny his title shot anymore, eh? Possibly not. But that's the same as Edwards. I don't think you can deny Edwards his title shot anymore. Ofon says, got to see Brad fight 5 rounds first. That is true. That is 100% true. You got to see him fight. And I'm a huge Brad Riddell fan. You got to see him fight 5 rounds, and I think I'd like to see him fight some different guys as well, some different types of fighters. Guys like Gregor Gillespie, guys like Islam Makhachev, that present different looks for Brad. So far I think and this is credit to him. It's not a knock. This is credit to him. Every fight with Brad Riddell so far, I've been like, I think Brad Riddell's going to win this one. I think he's even with. I think that with Gregor as well. But I think that because, like I said, like before the Drew Dober fight, I can't see these guys outstriking Brad at this stage. So I'd like to see someone that has something else to offer Brad Riddell. And there are those guys in that division. There are guys in that division. Make it interesting. Were you surprised Vettori lasted the 5 rounds and did okay? No, I wasn't surprised because I said that before. I just feel that for someone like Vettori, and he's copped a lot of shit, man. Like people are such fucking assholes, Like for someone like Vettori, like for him to win, to me, Robert Whittaker and Israel Adesanya, that's more or less always a 50-50 fight. I see Rob's got a couple more ways to win, and Israel has his ways to win, and they're both fast guys that hit hard. Israel caught him before, so you didn't get to see Rob's game evolve throughout. You didn't get to see Rob's full game evolve throughout that fight because he got caught in the first round. And there was, regardless of what people say, there wasn't a lot in that fight. If you actually watch it without thinking, I have no horse in this race. If you watch it, the last sequence, they both swung. They both caught. Israel caught him split second before, and he'd already dropped him in the first round. So credit to Israel as well. So you didn't really get to see him, but it was like a split second. There was not much in it. So Rob has a few different ways to win, whereas Vettori has his ducks have to be all in a row, and Israel to have a bad day for Vettori to beat him. In my opinion, I don't think. But that's not because Vettori is not super tough. That's not because Vettori is not super talented. He's all of those things. He just, I think, doesn't match up. In some ways, matches up well to Israel, but in some ways, he doesn't. He's a little bit slow and a little bit bricked up. You know what I mean? And that's kind of how he fights, and it works well for him in some cases, and it worked well for him against Israel in certain moments of the fight. But today, right now, Israel's a better fighter than him, and he's going to win 9 out of 10 times. You know. Whereas with Rob and Israel, I really think that fight gets split 5 out of 10 either way. You know, that's honestly how I see it. I'm not, because I hope Rob wins. I like Israel as well, but I hope Rob wins. I think Rob can win. He's got a lot of tools to allow him to win, and then you got to fight, you know, and then anything can happen after that. So no, it didn't surprise me. Emily Spencer says, off topic, I know, but what brand of model mic do you use? Give me 1 second. I'll tell you right now. Baby, what kind of mic do we use? Shure SMC7D. I think something like that. Ophon says, the combat Adesanya finished Whittaker with confuses me to this day. It looked so strange and awkward, and I couldn't believe it generated that much power. I don't understand, apparently. What do you mean you don't understand, apparently? Man, he caught him right on the chin. It was like they both, the one that finished, was they kind of exchanged left hooks. And it caught him right on the chin, dude. And it caught him on the chin just like a split second before Rob caught him, you know, and that's the game, dude. That's why people look at it and people say, oh, you should have done this, you should have done. Dude, you understand? You have a game plan and you get fucking hit in the face, you know, by someone with bad intentions that hits hard and things don't work out the way you wanted it to. Beetlejuice says, hey, Fab Nation, I love Rob and I can't wait for Rob to get Izzy, but why is Rob his arch nemesis when others have done somewhat better, lasted longer with Izzy? I didn't know that Rob is his arch nemesis necessarily. I think that in that fight, whilst Israel finished him early, I don't, like I said, I think Israel knows, like he knows, you know what I mean? It wasn't like the Costa fight. It was nothing like the Costa fight. It wasn't a systematic dismantling like that. You know, these guys were they were fucking gunslinging, and Israel caught Rob first, you know, and credit to him, you know, and that's what happened. But fuck, man, I was there, you know what I mean? And I know what their presence is like, you know. That's what I say to people like, oh, Israel's not that big. Nah, dude, Israel's a big dude, you know. It's not your walk around weight. This is what I don't understand with people as well. Like, the guy might walk around at 91, 92 kilos, right? But he's fucking lean at 91, 92. Like, he's lean. I'm talking about Israel. He's like a skeleton with muscle and skin at 92. Then he cuts down to get to 185, you know. Man, like, fuck my ticket. He's walking around 92, 93, like fucking lean, you know. And Rob's a fucking big, strong guy, you know, like a real big, strong guy. And I know just from having trained with Rob and that, like how fast he moves, how fast he blitzes in and out. What his body feels like as well. He's like he's a real different mix of like extreme strength and suppleness and flexibility in his ability to move. You don't find that. And Israel's very similar. Israel's very similar in that regard as well. He's not just a tall, skinny guy, and both of them have a real fucking presence in the octagon. Like, when you're there with them, both of them have that fucking thing that they just have a thing. I can't explain what it is. It's almost a predatory thing. So they understand that. They both feel it off each other. They both know who's who, you know. And I don't think, other than that as well, I don't think anyone else at middleweight, no disrespect to any of the middleweights, other than catching Rob with something, other than just catching him, I don't see any other middleweights beating Rob. I don't see any other middleweights getting close to beating Rob, to be fair. I don't see anyone else beating Israel other than Rob. And no disrespect to any of the other middleweights. I love watching some of these guys fight. I'm a huge fan of some of these guys, but I don't see any of them like even coming close to either one of these guys, you know? And if they didn't have each other, whichever one of them was there, would rather Silva reign. And I also think whoever wins out of these two would have an Anderson Silva like reign. Julio Cesar Martinez says, what do you think of Figgy versus Gabran at 135? I don't know, man, because I don't know what's wrong with Figgy. Like, I don't know if it's just a weight cut. I don't know if it's like a dietary issue. I don't know. I haven't seen enough of him now, like after this whole issues, like the debacles that have occurred. I think that what was the last two fights. I haven't seen enough, you know, to be able to say this. I think, I don't know. I can't give an educated answer. Are we at the point people are less impressed by decision wins in title fights? Weren't too impressed with Izzy? Is it because people want closer fights or people aboard do not appreciate his style? Says Yayo. I don't know. This is news to me because I was super impressed with Israel in that fight. Because Vettori, people don't understand. Vettori went out there and he knew what he had to do to win, and he honestly tried to do it, you know. And at times there were moments in that fight where he was successful with what he was trying to do. And Israel looked good. He looked good winning. You know what I mean? There wasn't fuck Vettori's look, dude. I didn't see Vettori beating Rob or Israel, but Vettori's a tough motherfucker, dude, and he took some big shots. Not people take the leg kicks, the amount of leg kicks that Vettori took. Not many people could take them and keep coming. There were shots that Israel was throwing to his head, like with the right high kick. Was saying Israel wasn't trying to finish. You stand there and take one of those shins of Israel's to the head or across your forearms and take it like that on the head. You know, Israel's trying to knock his fucking head off, dude. And Vettori kept coming, man. And but being tough is not enough, especially at that level. I was impressed with Israel. I don't think if you're not impressed with him, man, like, I don't know. You might not like the guy. It's a different story, but he's a hell of a fighter, dude. Irfan says, at Beetlejuice, because Robert Whittaker has gone on a 3-fight win streak of people that were considered next title shot contenders before he beat them. That's that. And he's beaten everyone. Yayo says, seems like you don't want the Doba versus Riddell fight. It's not that I didn't want the Doba versus Riddell fight. I just that it was kind of like I didn't think Doba was going to get him to the ground, and I didn't think he was going to finish him on the ground either, and I didn't see how he was going to outstrike Brad properly, you know, other than catching him, and he almost fucking did. He almost did. Economy says it's crazy how much better Rob and Izzy are compared to the other middleweights. Well, the thing is, man, they're both guys that have been around for a long time, you know, both super talented, but they're also at an age now in their early 30s where that's your peak, man. That's where you're at your physical best and you have your experience and you have your training behind you. And you've also worked out a lot of things in life. Like you kind of worked out what works for you, what's best for you in life, what's best for you in training. It doesn't mean you're perfect. It just means you right now know what's good for you for working at your physical best. So both these guys have achieved that and they've got the skill sets behind them. So yeah, I think that's why. It doesn't surprise me at all, to be honest with you. There's interviews I've done before. I said I think Rob will be the best middleweight ever. He's definitely got the potential to be. I don't know that he will be necessarily. Like, there are some big shoes to fill, but he's right up there in any conversation. And so is Israel, and so is Anderson Silva, of course, and et cetera, et cetera. Ryan H says, what happens with Riddell, Hooker, and Fiziev? Don't they all train together? They're all potential matchups. I don't know. I don't know that. Does Fiziev train at City Kickboxing, or does he train at Tiger? I'm not sure. And does some camps at City Kickboxing? I don't know. I do not get into all of that. Yayo says Whittaker must have been licking his lips at Izzy's ground game. I don't know. I think that on the ground, Rob's better than both Israel and Vettori. I think he's a better wrestler and better grappler. But you're not doing jiu-jitsu there. Do you know what I mean? You're not doing jiu-jitsu. And there are some things that Israel does really well. You know, if you notice as well, there were things that were pretty. There were some holes there for Israel, but Vettori, who is not a bad grappler in his own right, wasn't able to capitalize on it. The thing with the rounds as well, they're 5-minute rounds. So for when you see a guy, like, other than just catching a submission right off the bat, or you get someone down, you crack them a few times, they're 5-minute rounds. So it's hard for you when you see someone like Nurmagomedov or someone like that own someone completely the way they do, or someone like Islam Makhachev, or some of your better jiu-jitsu guys that can get you down and just run shop on you in 2 or 3 minutes. It's very hard, you know, and like the rule set favors a striker in MMA. As soon after the first round, when you're both sweaty and you're tired, this is the thing other people don't get as well. If you go for broke early on a takedown with Israel, you might get it, right? You might get it, but if you don't finish him and he pops up, it starts to get harder and harder and harder for you to finish those takedowns, you know? So yeah, I think Rob's definitely a better grappler for sure, but you know, it's a tough fight. Beetlejuice says, hey Fab, it keeps running out. Are you running off Wi-Fi? No, I'm not running off Wi-Fi. It's fucking the internet connection here in the Illawarra. We're still in the 1970s here. Joshua Wilcox says Gregor would be a warm-up fight for Brad if he was about to fight Islam. I wouldn't call Gregor Gillespie a warm-up fight for anyone. Ofon says, dude, Brad's counters were incredible that night. Incredible. That left hook over the top, that check hook that he was throwing, the counter hook was phenomenal. Brutus says, Fab, how effective is foot stomping against better strikers or fighters with good foot movement? The thing there is you have to be able to push that guy up against the cage. So if you've achieved that, you've already achieved a big thing to put the guy up against the cage. But having said that, like, dude, you can break like the metatarsals of the foot they're not your foot's not made to get stomped on by big strong dudes. So it is effective. Like, you can't just leave your foot there like and be like, who cares? Like, you can break a little toe, you can break the metatarsals when you stomp on someone. I remember in that fight with Uriah Hall, like, that was part of the game plan, to push him up against the cage and stomp on his feet, because we knew that Uriah Hall would turn to defend, like he puts his chest to the cage. Yeah, you can't leave your feet there, you know, so it doesn't let that guy that's defending against the cage, it doesn't let him rest. It doesn't let him just be able to just stay there. But you got to get yourself in a position where you can stomp the foot. Christian Laurent says, does a rematch between Izzy and Rob deserve a stadium, Eden Park, Marvel, etc., due to its magnitude? I'm going to say yes. Joshua Wilcox says, I like Brad defense and counter. Dan Hooker, for me, gets too heavy-handed and barely moves his head. Very, 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 very different types of fighters with Hooker and Brad Riddell. Brad Riddell is an extremely, extremely accomplished striker. Like, it's not really fair in Dan Hooker to compare them, like, striking wise. It's not. They're not in the same. Haven't achieved the same stuff. Joseph says, "Hey, coach, baby woke me up. I didn't know there's a silver lining catching you unexpectedly tonight." Thank you, sir. Thank you. Are people still having troubles getting the notifications? If so, please like and subscribe and hit the notification bell. Guys, we'll be here doing the commentary tomorrow, myself and Eli, for the Justice Huni versus Paul Gallen fight. So please join us for that. I've got to send one quick thing to someone right now. Yeah, so please join us for that. Yayo says, it seems Vettori stopped pressuring the same way from the third round. Was it a fear of being countered, or was it the leg kicks playing? Probably, and that's very tiring, dude. Like, it's very, very tiring to pressure someone that's countering you. It's very hard for you to be able to be sharp to make sure you don't get hit. It takes a big toll when you get someone down and they just pop up. Like, it's not that simple. It's not that easy. So, yeah, it starts to get harder and harder and harder. That's why you can't just go in against Israel and spam takedowns, because even, you might out-grapple him the first 2-3 rounds. Because that was one of the criticisms of Anderson. People saying, "Oh, you could blah 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 blah." And Anderson, in fairness, had a better guard than Israel does. But, like, it's hard to keep on shooting. The thing that takes the most energy in MMA is the double leg, is the big double leg shot. So yeah, sorry, I'm just going down here. Super Skunk says, "Hi coach, who you got winning in a potential fight between Nate Diaz and Damian Maia today?" Nate. I think Nate beats him. Nate's got tidier hands. I think what I saw against Bilal Muhammad, although Bilal Muhammad moves a lot more than Nate does, and so it might be easier for Damian to be able to get Nate down, possibly. But I also see, especially if it's a 5-rounder, I see Nate eventually just picking him apart today. Before, like a few years back, I would say Damian Maia. When do you think is a timetable for Rob versus Izzy rematch from Joseph? I don't know. Aussie-born Kiwi, he says, with Izzy pretty much dominating the whole top 10, do you see him going undefeated in middleweight for the years to come? He's got to fight Rob. I can't say that that's an easy fight for him, or that he'll come out on top 100%. He could go undefeated for a while if he beats Rob, which is a big if. He could, yeah. I don't see anyone in the current frame beating him right now, but you don't know, like, people didn't see Weidman beating Anderson slightly. There could be some kid right now training in Oklahoma, finishing in 2 years, have had 8-9 fights and been the UFC the same way that and I said Oklahoma just from a wrestling state, being the UFC, and you don't know this guy yet. So I can't say, this is what will happen, because right now in the current landscape, I don't see anyone beating Rob or Israel. That doesn't mean that in the next 2 years we don't get some crazy Chechnyan or boy from Oklahoma or some tough kid out of Brazil come in, and you don't even know who he is right now because he's 18 years old and still in high school. You don't know. So there's always people popping up out of nowhere that you just don't know. When Rob went from welterweight to middleweight, nobody thought he was going to win the belt. Nobody thought that he was going to win the belt. When Rob fought Romero 1, unless you were a hardcore fight fan, nobody knew who Israel Adesanya was. Israel was fighting in glory and kicking ass. And right now, only very few people know Alex Pereira, and they only know Alex Pereira because he knocked out Israel Adesanya. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, you don't know. You don't know how everyone matches up. And you don't know who's going to pop up at any time. Brutus says Marvin did block a lot of Izzy's head kicks. Yeah. But, dude, they take their toll, dude. They take their toll. It's like you putting up your arm like this, somebody hitting you with a baseball bat. I wish we could see Vettori versus Romero. That'd be a cracker. Julio Cesar Martinez says, Izzy beat Whittaker so easily, though. I don't feel that was the case. I think he beat him quick, but I don't think he beat him easily. A lot of things like they were gunslinging, and Izzy won that gunsling fight. But it wasn't like I said, it wasn't like a dismantling like the Costa fight like that. It wasn't that kind of fight. So yeah. Joshua Wilkins says, also not to mention, Rob was in a bad headspace during that fight. You could see it in the podcast he used to do with you. Yes, maybe not. I can't talk about that. I can't say things, but at the same time, you don't know if you're right at that place, you could fucking see it, right? And Moreno goes out there and wins, you know. You don't know what the other guy's going through, you know, at the end of the day. So I don't speak about because when I don't speak about Rob's business because it's Rob's business, you know. And so, and you also got to give credit to the winner. Israel won. He won because he won, and you have to take it like a man. And that's it. And it is what it is. I'm not out here to put Rob's business out, though. Christian Lawrence says, if Kambosos manages to either sleep or upset Teofimo on Saturday, does he deserve a hero's welcome upon arrival to Sydney? I don't think he will get one because I don't think a lot of people know who Teofimo is, even though he's a fantastic fighter. And I don't know that Kambosos has that draw in Sydney right now. Beetlejuice says, is it cutting out or is it just me? No, it cuts. Beetlejuice says, hey, Fabskin, what's your take on the Paulo Costa saga not taking fights? I don't know why he's doing it, so I can't say too much about it. From a strictly fighting perspective, the problem is he doesn't have the leverage. Like from a strictly like business perspective, my opinion, from what I see, he doesn't have the leverage to really be able to do that because the middleweight will just roll without him. And he doesn't reach. Other fighters aren't going to stand with him and say, hey, you know what, guys? Yeah, fuck that. Let's not fight. So, you know, we all get paid $4, $5, $600,000 a fight. The upper echelon guys, at least. No one's going to do that. So he has no real leverage to do that. I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm not saying what he's saying is wrong. I just don't see him having the leverage to make it work. I mean, it was such a strange looking combo, especially the timing of it. It wasn't like that last combo in that last sequence wasn't like they both just swung, man. And Rob almost hit him and he hit Rob flush and he won. Do you know what I mean? Again, people look at it like post-fight analysis and it's this and it's that and da-da-da. Watch the fight, man. Watch the fight properly, though. You know what I mean? Watch the fight properly. Watch the replay and don't look at it like you know what's going to happen, you know? Cyber One says, Ariel Hawani, you look different today and sound different. Yeah, I underwent some changes. Ofon says, yeah, Izzy was actually very careful in the Rob fight. Dude, Israel is a fantastic fighter, dude. Really, really good fighter. So is Rob, man. And the reality is they both know who each other is. You know, they both know how tough that fight is. You know, they both 100% know that. I don't care who it is. I will say this: you will always have someone from this region up at the top there. I think you know there'll always be someone from the Australian New Zealand region. Always, there's going to be someone either knocking on the door for the belt or with the belt. So I'm going to skip a few people, but I've probably answered a few enough. Andre says, what are the keys to victory in the second fight for Rob, Fab? I don't work with Rob anymore. I think for him, I don't know what he'll do, what I think is he has to pressure Israel, but he can't come in. He can't overcommit with that pressure. I think doubling up on combinations, doubling up on a jab, uh, throwing punches in combination, and then following up with the left kick. So either with a left kick up high, left kick to the body, or left kick to the legs, and mixing in double legs and single legs and cage wrestling with sequence against the cage. Trying things like the broomstick sweep, things like that. I think are going to be Rob's friends in that fight. I think the thing with Israel's build, again, another thing people don't fully get. The thing with Israel's build is that he's extremely strong in certain situations, in certain spaces, because his levers, when someone's that tall, the levers create huge amounts of strength. Like, he has much better leverage than everyone else. He's 6'4", 80-inch reach. He's got gigantic lever advantage. But once Rob gets you around your waist, grabs you around your waist, you feel that he's Irish fluid. And so I think that getting inside that leverage and being able to do it is going to be important for Rob. And I think his timing is impeccable and he can do it. Having said that, Israel's no joke. Israel knows this. Israel's camp knows this. His camp is no joke. They're smart people too. So, they're going to be working on that as well. They're going to be working on that. They also understand that if the fight's standing for 2-3 minutes and Rob gets a takedown, then Israel has to be on the ground for a minute and a half, and it's going to get stood back up, and they're going to go to their corners. They know that. So, how you prepare those things is very important as well. So they're the things I see for Rob that for him to win, but it's also Israel has his own things that he has to do to win. So it's interesting. It's very, very interesting. But having said that, I think Rob can also catch him. I think Rob's also got the power, the speed, and the wherewithal and knowledge and ability to catch Israel standing as well. Beetlejuice says, that's awesome. Your wife knew the mic brand. Does she help with the technical side of things? She is the technical side of things, mate. Anything you see here, I didn't fucking do that. You think I came up with a fucking salt lamp? I didn't even know what a salt lamp was before today. You think I put the flowers and the plants up there and that? I don't do any of that. I don't even know what that stuff is. Yeah, she knows all that stuff. She's the one that does all of this and everything. I have no idea. I think Israel's just a nightmare for him stylistically. I fucking love Rob though. I think they're a tough matchup for each other stylistically. Cyber One says he has a warrior aura. I tell you right now, I think that's both those guys. That's what they meant to be doing, is fighting. You know what I mean? They're both fantastic. That's exactly what they should be doing. So I'm gonna skip a few. Sorry, guys. I'm just skipping a few. Otherwise, I'm not gonna think. Okay. Mr. Nasa 1997 says, wow, I really like the new thumbnails and channel logo. BK Messiah says, I don't want that champ Dodger to hoard that belt again. Man, honestly, like I don't know if you're new to the podcast or whatnot, but honestly, we're trying to keep a good vibe here, man. So any stupid shit, just keep it off, man. Can Amosov and Chimaev beat Usman. Now, see, that's an interesting one to me, Suyab, because I think Amasov is really, really good. I don't know that he beats Usman. I don't know. He really, really impressed me against Lima. Like, he ran sharp on Lima, and that was very, very impressive. Chimaev, I haven't seen enough of. Like, I've seen him fight enough times, like anyone else has. But I really want to see him against someone in the upper echelons of the welterweight division, and I'd like to see him. I'd like to see him at least twice against some really good competition, to see how he goes. If he does fight Magny or someone like that, that's going to say a lot. Jay says, how do you think Chandler versus Riddell would go? Ooh, Chandler versus Riddell. I think Chandler's going to go for that takedown, you know what I mean? But he's got the power as well to bomb you. So I don't know, man. I don't know. But Brad's very, I don't know. I think I early, if it's early, I think Chandler will probably win. If not, no. I think if it starts to get into a rhythm where Chandler can't get him down, hold him down, then I think Riddell will get the better of it. I'm not biased. You're calling me out for my opinion, or because it triggers Robert fans, says BK Messiah. Man, I'm not calling you out on your opinion. Your opinion is one thing. When you start calling any fighters, not just Rob, any fighter, whether it's Israel or anyone else, names, or you start being silly about that, I don't really want you on the chat, dude. It messes up the vibe of the chat. That's all I'm saying to you. If you tell me that you think that Israel pastes Rob, I'm cool with that, dude. That's your opinion. And actually, I want people to have different opinions to me on the thing. Just, I don't want people fighter bashing, and that's all, man. Other than that, I would love having you on here. And please, man, give me all the different things that you want to say about any and all. John Hyun Ko. Hey, you're the guy? You have your podcast, eh? Don't you? John Honko, good vibes, coach. Keep up the good work. Whittaker versus Izzy 2 is going to be the highest level of MMA competition. Love to see Oshana on the biggest stage. That is you, eh? You're the guy with the podcast. Watch this guy's podcast, man. That it's on the here now. This guy does all good. This guy does all good guests, everything. If it's who I think it is. Yeah, man. Thank you so much, my friend. Yeah, Kumite TV. This is the guy. Watch this guy's podcast, man. Anyone who gets a chance, he always has good guests and has good fighters on there and that. So please, man, watch him. This guy's got really, really good content. So watch him. There's a lot better guests than I do. So watch him. Children of America, yeah, BK Messiah. Let's work positively, let's move forward in a nice way. Okay. Let's go. Beetlejuice says, hey, Fab, I love the way you handle douchebags. Man, maybe he's not a douchebag. We're all learning. We're all moving forward. So, we're all doing our best here. Some says Izzy will only have a couple more fights and retire. That's my prediction. Maybe he's done a lot, man. He's done a lot and he's done really well. What's my podcast called, or what's the other fellow's podcast called? The other fellow's podcast is Kumite TV. Andre says, what do you think about Chiesa versus Luque, coach? I love the matchup. Love that matchup too. I think Chiesa on the ground is on top. If he gets on top, gets you on the ground on top, and he's got that chain wrestling that he does up against the cage, he's a nightmare for most people. A nightmare. His stand-up, though, is kind of a bit mechanical. And when I say a bit mechanical, man, I'm comparing him to the best guys. I'm not comparing him to your mate up the road, And so Luque is definitely the better striker out of the two, but Chiesa on the ground is dangerous. He's a very, very, very dangerous guy. I cannot wait for that fight. I love those primarily striker versus grappler matchups. At the Fair One podcast, Grange TV, do you think Izzy vs Whittaker rematch will be in Auckland? Because I'd love that. I don't know, dude. You know what? I don't know. I don't know what the COVID situation is going to be. You know what it is. Like, I don't know what it'll be here in Australia right now with like if they were to fight in Australia. I don't know. And I think New Zealand's pretty strict with things as well. So you'd have to have you would have to have some sort of fucking clearance. I don't know, like because right now you have to, what do you call it? Quarantine. You have to quarantine here for 2 weeks, and I don't see how the UFC would come here and everyone, all 400 people that roll with the UFC, because it's like when they go to a venue, like say there's a hotel, the UFC hires 400 rooms for the fighters, for the staff, for the weigh-ins, for the blah blah. All those people that come, right? So say one fighter brings minimum 2 people with them. All those people would have to quarantine for 2 weeks. I don't see that happening in Australia unless it changes. Izzy does deserve mad respect, BK Messiah, and everyone gives it to him here. So if you keep going, man, I'm going to block you, man. You know, just everyone's given nothing but respect to Israel. And you know what, man, I'm going to block you because now you're starting to get a bit dumb with the racist shit. So take that somewhere else, man. ZZ328 says, are you subscribed to Craig Jones OnlyFans? Here's something I'm going to tell you that's true. I don't even know what OnlyFans is. How do you see Polo versus Vettori playing out? I see Vettori beating him. Polo he's got one way of winning, and that's to come forward and hit you hard. You know what I mean? And Vettori's not dumb. Vettori's grappling and his wrestling is enough, and he's smart enough to know what to do, you know. And I think he'll push Costa out of those first 2-3 rounds. But in those first 7 or 8 minutes, Costa's very, very dangerous. And Tana Ismailoglu. Am I saying that right? Ismailoglu. Tana Ismailoglu. Sorry if you answered this already, but without giving too much away, will the game plan for Bobby Knuckles be much different for his rematch with Izzy? I don't work with Rob, so I'm not giving too much away. I can't tell you what I know of him, but I don't think you were able to see the game plan evolve completely in that fight, because the fight ended pretty early. You know, he got caught by Israel at the end of the first round, you know, and then he came out in the second round. So like I said it earlier, what I think Rob will do in the fight. Which like I said, I think he has to come forward with a level of volume to pressure Israel, to take the footwork away from Israel. So he can't capitulate the center of the octagon too much, because then Israel can move backwards quite easily. I think Rob will still try and blitz. I think though that Rob will start to pressure him with volume, double up on the jabs, throwing combinations that finish with the left kick, to the legs, to the midsection, up high on Israel. And then he'll be able to push him back a little bit more, where he can start to incorporate more of his grappling. As far as you just running in and doing a double leg on Israel in the open mat, it's not going to work. Beetlejuice says, ha ha ha, Rob OnlyFans. I don't get that, by the way. I don't understand that. And it's just annoying. Blocked. Yeah, I did. I blocked him. I don't think Kevin Lee will ever make the "I see holes in his game" comment ever again. Children of America, he's had over 100 fights. It's not a bad idea for him to retire soon. Yeah, I agree with that as well. Ahmed says, no need to fight one another over who one of you thinks is going to win. I know, Ahmed. It's and the other thing is, no one was even arguing with the dude. Nick Go says, does Rob have better wrestling than Izzy? I would say so. If they were to wrestle, I would back Rob. A few years back, Rob qualified for the Commonwealth Games, like maybe 2-3 years ago, but he couldn't go to the Commonwealth Games for wrestling because he had to fight Romero. But he qualified for the Commonwealth Games in wrestling. I don't know that Israel would qualify for the Commonwealth Games. Having said that, though, I think that Israel has people think it's really easy to take him down. It's not just Israel's wrestling, it's his length and his ability to change angles and frame that makes it really hard for him to take down. So it's not just the fact of is his wrestling good or not. His ability to fight and his ability to use that is very, very good. Thoughts on MMA Guru channel? He's the GOAT. I'm not familiar with it, but I will look it up. Casey Jones says, wonderful, wonderful. Suyab says, Leon tends to play it safe by clinch fighting and fighting on the outside, but he lost the last round to Cerrone, RDA, Nelson, and Diaz. Why does he fade a bit yet not fight at a high pace? It's a funny one, eh? It's a very funny one. I do think, my opinion, part of that is he doesn't stop people coming forward a lot. So he's moving and hitting people, but he's not hitting them enough to stop these pressure fighters coming forward. And that takes its toll out on you as well, because he puts out a fair bit of output and he does some damage, but he doesn't do enough to really stop the guys coming forward. And if you don't stop some for you, to tire you out. I think that could be some of it. Yeah, that I think that's a thing. Cyber says, why did he say white champs? Laugh out loud. Why bring race into it? Man, I fucking hate when people do that. I really, really hate it. And in fairness to Rob or anyone else, not that it matters, but his mum is Samoan Māori. So I don't think Rob would classify as white himself anyways. But not that fucking matters. Who gives a shit? You know, who cares? Who gives a fuck if he's white or black or orange or purple? It's a year 2021. And if you have to say something as retarded as that, man, I feel sorry for you, dude. Like, I really do. I really, really do. It's year 2021. You shouldn't even be, it doesn't even matter. Like, why would you say that? Cyber One says GSP was white and defended his belt many, many times until he had concussion syndrome. Dude, there's who gives a shit? Not of you, you're 100% right, but like, who cares? Children of America says, really, I hate striker versus grappler matchups because it's usually very defensive and one-sided. I know, mate, but call me a purist. I just love it. I just love it. I'm old-fashioned, mate. ZZ328 says, have you subscribed to Craig Jones OnlyFans? I honestly don't know what OnlyFans is. Andre says, were you surprised Rob put a clinic on Gastelum like that? No, I wasn't. I didn't think Gastelum would be a better wrestler than him, and I knew that he wouldn't be a better striker than him. I knew Rob. Man, I said it in the podcasts leading up to the fight. I said to you what I thought was going to happen. Rob was going to butcher his front leg and and be able to take him down, and he did. So wasn't surprised at all by that. Not at all. What do you think of Dan Hooker calling out Nate Diaz fight of the year potential? I can't see Nate beating Dan Hooker. Okay. Super Skunk says, if Izzy's theory on cannabis and gyno was true, I would have huge female breasts by now, and I don't. Casey Jones says, sup, my ginger. Children of, how are you, sir? Children of America, you can get gyno from common medications like finasteride too. Yeah, you can get gyno from a whole bunch of different things. So I don't know. Ben Smartick says, Grange, not sure if you've answered already, but in a hypothetical world, if Wonderboy comes up to 185, who wins this hypothetical matchup between Izzy versus Wonderboy? I think Izzy, man, because Wonderboy is a very good striker. He was 58-0 in the karate fights and full contact karate. But Israel's had over 100 fights in combat, period. And Wonderboy would be getting close to that in combat at the same time. But at the same time, I think Israel's way fucking bigger, man. Way, way bigger than Wonder Boy. Wonder Boy is not a big guy. He's surprisingly, when I saw him, I've met him and he was with Rob and everything, but Rob was already at 185 and Wonder Boy was at 170. And Wonder Boy is not big, dude. He's probably my size. He's not a big guy. He's like, and Rob looked so much bigger than him, but Rob was already at 185. And if Wonder Boy was to bulk up to get up to 185, I think he'd lose a little bit of that. He'd lose a little bit of that thing. And Israel's 6'4", dude. He's huge. He's a tall dude. And like I said before, people go, no, his walk around weight's only 91 kilos or whatever. And I think, dude, you understand that he's 91, 92 kilos at 6'4", and he's lean. He's lean at 91, 92 kilos. When he fought Jan Blachowicz, yeah, it might have been his walk around weight, but he's lean at that weight and he fights for 185. So I think that in that matchup, it's a little bit hard for Wonder Boy. I think he'd be giving a little bit too much away for against another great striker, and that's when it gets a little bit difficult. John Price says, cheers, Fab. No, cheers to you, sir. Fab, Leon Edwards versus Masvidal. I think I'd have to probably lean towards Masvidal a little bit just because he hits a little harder. He's a very good striker and he hits a little harder. I'm going to get more water. I'm back, people. I just had to refill my water. Yeah, I think Leon hits a little. Masvidal hits a little bit harder than what Leon does. But and Masvidal's smart too. But I see Leon's a very cerebral fighter. Be a tough one, man. That'd be a crazy fight, and I'd fucking sign up to watch that one. I lean towards Masvidal a little bit because, actually, I don't. I don't know. I don't know that I was Masvidal. I don't know. Leon's got very good grappling too. Masvidal, I think, is a better wrestler though, and you've got to be careful because Leon gets taken down, has been taken down. Yeah, I don't know. That's a tough one, man. And it says Fab definitely has an OnlyFans. I don't know what that is. Can somebody explain what that is? Ahmed says Paulo Costa is extremely entertaining. True. I absolutely love his fights. He puts on amazingly great shows. He does. But that's not the same thing as being tactically and technically savvy. And it's not the same two things. Akmal Holbikov. I don't know what you say, my friend, but I thank you for being here. Raychen Joint says, can you take down Izzy in open mat space? His takedown defense is too good against cage. Yeah, you can, but it's harder because when you're trying to take him down in the open mat, he's got places to move and he can angle off in different areas. That's why they're trying to push him up against the cage where he can't move in different directions. But someone like Rob there, once he pushes him there, might be able to, could clip him with stuff as well, could clip him with power. So, I don't know. Rob's a lot faster than Vettori, man. He's a lot faster than Vettori. I rewatched the fight. Rob was actually tagging Izzy a lot, especially in the first before he got dropped. He landed a beautiful right hand. Dude, honestly, Andre, I appreciate that you watched the fight because when people just repeat rhetoric, like it's stupid, dude. It was Rob did well, man. He did well, but Israel beat him fair and square. That's it. It would have been good to have seen Rob's game evolve more throughout that fight, as was the game plan. But It didn't work. It didn't happen. You know what I mean? He got caught, man. That's the fight game. Rachel says, dude, the way he kicked off against the fence to pop back up versus Vettori was amazing. Did a very good job. He did a very good job, man. Israel did. Ofon says, yeah, that's Australian Olympics pretty much, right? I think that you're referring to the Commonwealth Games. The Commonwealth Games is kind of like what the Pan American Games would be to the people on the American continent. It's the Commonwealth Games is everyone who was under the British Commonwealth, and they all compete in that. Pip Dennison says, why are people so unkind? I don't know what the fuck is wrong with people, Pip. Christian Lorenz says, Rob has amazing wrestling for MMA. Yeah, he's a good wrestler. I think he was referring to Matey from before Ofon. When you're saying Pip Dennison, who? Super Skunk says, Ponzinibbio versus Beza fight of the year contender in your opinion. I truly love the coach. In your opinion or my opinion? I don't know if it was I don't know if it was a fight of the year for me. For me personally, I thought as a comeback from Santiago, gets a thumbs up, a very enthusiastic thumbs up from me. And says he did wrestling at school. I never heard of it before. Now it's in MMA gyms. Are you talking about Rob? Rob wrestled with me for about 6-7 years. That's where he did his wrestling at. He was already an adult when he started. Shaka Garami says, Craig Jones versus Gabby Garcia. Who you got? Craig. Dorian Dark says, who wins, Masvidal or Leon Edwards? I can't pick that one, dude. ZZ says, Izzy's defensive wrestling is really good. 1,000%. Neutralizes a lot of opponents. 100%. I think Rob's mix ins and outs, switch-ups will be more successful than Marvin. Agree on all fronts. I think that Rob's a little quicker. Not a little quicker. A lot quicker than Marvin. And much more pop on his punches than Marvin does. Christian Lorenz says, do you expect many Aussies to travel to Auckland if the rematch for Rob and Izzy takes place in NZ? Yeah, 100%. They're like, Auckland's like 3 hours from here, dude. You know what I mean? I think up until like 1930s, 1931 or something like that, it was meant to be part of Australia. Like, it's fucking close, dude. It's closer for me to go to Auckland than it is for me to go to Perth. So, yeah. Yes, and there's a lot of Australians living in New Zealand anyways. Can Cyril Gani beat Ngannou? Can he? Yes. Will he? I don't know. And Ngannou, the thing Cyril is very he's very tidy with his stand up. And Ngannou hasn't the best footwork. He hasn't. It's not the best. He's extremely athletic, extremely powerful, and hits like a fucking truck. But someone like Gani can get him out. Gani can wrestle too, man. Cyril Gani can wrestle too. So, and he's got good grappling. So someone like him might be able to push Francis out of those like early rounds where Francis is so dangerous. People forget too, like Derek Lewis and Stipe both handed Ngannou back-to-back losses. So it's not like he's unbeatable either. Michael Panzer says, how do you think Vettori would fare against Robert? Honestly, no disrespect to Vettori. I think it'll look like kind of like the Israel fight, but worse because it will look like the Gastelum fight. That's what I think. That's the truth. I honestly think Vettori versus Rob would look like Rob versus Gastelum, like that. No disrespect, huge Gastelum fan. Do you think Derek Lewis is getting the next title shot due to white privilege? No, but he's got a win over Ngannou. Do you get what I mean? And he's knocked the fuck out of people as well. John Price says, it's a subscription service where girls share the most exclusive content. Even some female fighters have it. We get exclusive content. So do men have OnlyFans pages? Roscoe says, Izzy's making an NZ versus Oz the old rivalry. Honestly, man, like me growing up, I never really experienced that rivalry, the Australian-New Zealand rivalry, other than I think with the rugby, maybe, but I didn't go to a private school in that, so I never really like the rugby union. I didn't even really give a shit. So the rugby league a little bit, but Australia usually wins the rugby league. I don't know. I don't know to what extent there's a massive rivalry like that. I never really, by me personally, other people probably felt it, but myself, I never really felt that rivalry with the New Zealanders. Like when the national team with wrestling or whatever, and we'd go somewhere, and like I was coaching, and we'd go to like the Youth Olympics or what, things like that. Like we always kind of hung out with the New Zealanders, like the Australians and New Zealanders always kind of hung out together. Or if I'm somewhere, if I'm overseas and I hear New Zealanders, I always feel kind of like if I hear another Australian or something, or if I'm at a gym somewhere overseas and I hear a New Zealander, I'll just go up and talk to them. I'll always be, oh, you're from New Zealand, da 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 da. We'll have a chat. So I don't really feel that kind of rivalry. Super Skunk, do you think Israel should eventually come out? Oh, come on, man. And you know what? Who gives a shit if he is? I don't care. Ophon says, I think Nate said he won't go down to 155 anymore, but I'd want to see him versus Gaethje. Interesting. John Price says, not just girls, anyone with a big fan base. But what is it? Isn't that just like Instagram or your YouTube page or something like that? Or is it like a Patreon now? John Hyun Ko from Kumite TV says, who do you think the UFC should sign next in Australia? Any prospects we should follow? There are some good kids coming up that are a little bit shy of there's about 2 or 3 guys that I will name them now, but they won't be. They're still a little undercooked, but you'll hear of them in the future. So, and for you, Kumite TV, mate, remember I've told you this, so remember you heard him from me first. There's a kid called Brad Fulmer, right? He's only like 18, 19 years old. He will make a big splash, big waves in the next, I'm going to say 4 or 5 years. He's a little bit undercooked at the moment. There's a kid named Sione Veikoso. He's actually Izzy Fitikefu's brother. So if you get a chance to interview Izzy Fitikefu, ask him about his brother Sione, who I think is the better of the 2 brothers. Tell him I said that as well. No, all jokes aside, he's very, 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 very talented kid. He doesn't look like Izzy. He's like kind of tall and really, really well built, whereas Izzy's short and built like a fire hydrant. So Sione Veikoso, Brad Fulmer, and there's a kid running around in the background. You won't have heard from him yet, and you won't have heard from him for a while. But I can't name him. I can't. You might get into things. So there's a couple of others. There are 2 that I think right off the bat. Colby Thickness that trains with Alex Volkanovski. He's for sure another one. They're probably the ones that I'd say right off my head. If you interview them, tell them I recommended them. Yeah. So Amir Muhammad says, not someone up and coming like Dan. I don't get that. And says, it's like that old wrestling computer game where you fight a boxer, karate man. It's what MMA is about. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Ophon says, Izzy's way bigger than Wonder Boy 2. Yes. Dan Hooker's chin is gone, says Julio Cesar Martinez. No, it's not, sir. Beetlejuice says, I want to see Rob and Costa in a mid-wrestling competition. Rob will out-wrestling. 100%. If they have a wrestling match, Rob will beat him for sure. Amir says, do you pay for the fights, Fab? Yeah, 100% I pay for the fights. 1,000%. Sorry, let me just put this up because I forget to do this all the time. Children of America says, I like grappler versus grappler and striker versus striker matchups. That way you get to see the high-level techniques of each. Fair point, sir. Fair point. But you know what happens sometimes in those fights, man? And it's the same with what you said, but the reverse is also true. Sometimes you get two grapplers and they don't grapple, they have a shit striking match. And sometimes you get two strikers and they don't strike, they have a shit grappling match. So, but I get what you're saying as well. Christian Laurent says, Wonderboy's frame accommodates his style perfectly for 170. Spot on. You're 100% spot on. Ofon says, I think like of a striker has the potential to be duds, like Wonderboy versus Till, Romero versus Adesanya. Yes, sir, I agree with you. Except that Romero versus Adesanya, Romero is a wrestler. Roscoe says, Izzy's big, but shit, Francis makes him look small. Francis makes him look like a little kid, man. It's crazy. I'm going to skip a few guys. I'm sorry. Okay. OnlyFans is a website. Ofon says, OnlyFans is a website where people often put up more revealing images of themselves, whether it's underwear, partial to completely nude pictures, and maybe videos. Really? Oh, that's kind of strange. Oh yeah, join us tomorrow, for Justice Huni versus Paul Gallen. We'll be doing that fight tomorrow. OnlyFans is a platform where you can subscribe with money to creators for content, usually porn. It's like direct creator to consumer, says Children of America. Oh, I see. Sorry guys, I'm skipping quite a few. Suyab says, Leon, when tested, looks like he has good jiu-jitsu. Do you think he would benefit if he was more aggressive and goes for takedowns and jabs more often? Man, he goes for takedowns quite a bit, dude. He does grapple. He looks good. I think that's his style, man. And he gets criticism, but he's like on an 8-0 run at welterweight right now. So sometimes you have to accept that that's how he fights and that he's had a lot of great success fighting like that. Andre says, do you believe any of the current welterweights can dethrone Usman? I think they can. I don't know if they will. But Usman's not young, dude. I don't know how much longer he'll keep going. Sir Lancelot says, do you think the crowd had an effect on Vettori's performance? Was a beast with no crowd. I know I'll be shitting myself and possibly faint in front of that many people. No, man, I thought Vettori did well. I think he just fought Israel Adesanya, who's the champion and a really, really good fighter. John Price says, do you think we could have more MMA champions if we taught wrestling in schools? Are you talking about Australia? Well, Australia, in the public school system, if you go to a school like actually, you don't have that. You might be part of the basketball team, but it doesn't compare to like the US system, you know. So you'd have to change a lot of the stuff for the public school system in Australia. If you had competitions at school, yeah, I mean wrestling or jiu-jitsu even, yeah, it'd be a big difference. But at the moment, the way that the education system in Australia is set up, that'd be like in the GPS schools or something like Joey's and King's School and stuff like that. If they had a wrestling program like they do with their rowing and their soccer and all that stuff, then yeah, you're going to have some really good kids come out of there for sure. Doesn't have to be wrestling, could be jiu-jitsu, could be judo even. Dorian Dark says, who wins this Saturday in boxing, Chavez Jr. or Anderson Silva? I don't know, man. I really don't know. Super Skunk says, Coach, when's the last time you got high on cannabis? The time I told you about, not long ago. Like that guy told me to try a cookie, and I tried half a cookie, and I was in fucking la la land, dude. I hate it. I don't take any of that stuff ever, you know. And I took half a cookie, and I was close to honestly hallucinating, and I was in bad way, man, real bad way. And I had to keep pacing for like 4 or 5 hours straight. I just paced up and down my living room because I could feel my face going numb and my arms and legs going numb if I sat still. If I sat still, my body would go numb and I couldn't move, and I'd start to think, you know, I'd be in my head, not good thoughts, man. And so I had to pace. And my wife coaching me through it. I thought that I'd get through it, no problems, but how wrong was I? Cyril was Ngannou's main sparring partner for 3 or 4 years, so they know each other's game very well. So it would be an interesting matchup, says Mr. Nasa 1997. I agree on all fronts. Ofon says, I'd honestly be afraid of Rob breaking his hands on Vettori's head. Could happen. Could happen. Ofon says, yeah, I'm from Houston, so I want Lewis to win his next. Man, Lewis is a monster, man. He's a beast. Beetlejuice, Derek Lewis, white privilege. Ofon says that Beetlejuice, I was just trying to mock that guy who got banned. Okay, I'm just going to skip a few just to kind of. Ofon says, do you think Chase Hooper joined the UFC a bit too early? It seems like his body isn't developed enough yet to compete with the rest of the fighters at the moment. Look, Chase, well, more than just early in as far as like his own physical development, I think in terms of technical development, there will be things. There's probably a few holes there that he could exploit, because I've seen him take a fair bit of punishment to get some of those wins. You know, that's just my opinion on that. Kumagai says, laugh out loud. I'm going to tell Izzy that tomorrow night. What are you going to tell Izzy? I don't understand quote what you're going to tell him, so we know. Craig started one as a joke. Oh, I see, said ZZ. Beetle just says, I spied Izzy in boxing and I was 100%, and Izzy was maybe running at 3% and I was getting raped. I believe that, my friend. Beetle just says, I'm glad he's gone now. Blood Diamond coming out to take welterweight belt in UFC. Craig's one, you can buy exclusive grappling content. Oh, I see. Amir Muhammad says, if you had to guess which fighters are on the Juice Fab, there's some people I don't have to guess, but I'm not going to say. We are live. Fab, do you miss being in Rob's camp? Love your streams, bro. Honestly, no. Honestly, because when the job was done, like when we got to where we got to, as far as like it was like a mutual thing. Like that was as far as like we were going to go. Like my life was changing and his life changed as well. And like, I'm not coaching people like that right now anyways, not for the next couple of years. Not for the next few years do I want to throw my hat in the ring to coach like that, travel and the rest of it. Because hold on 1 second. Because one, like as most of you have seen, like I've got a little girl now, and around the time of the end of that Israel fight was my daughter was maybe, I'm going to say maybe 3 months old, 2 months old. I don't even know if she was born yet. I can't remember. But yeah, so, but after that, my daughter was born anyways, regardless. No, it was after Israel's fight, my daughter was born. And now my wife's going to have another kid. We're going to have another kid. So 2 kids now. And I just want to be here. So I'm in a different chapter of my life, at least for now, where I coach people a little bit here and there, help out some people, help out some camps or whatever. But no, I don't want to be traveling and being part of a big fight camp like that. I'm happy with what we achieved, you know. I'm happy to have been lucky enough to be part of that, you know. That was a really fun time at that chapter in my life. But it's like, do I miss being part of the national team when I was coaching with the national team? Again, no, I don't miss it per se. It was fun. It was a good time at that particular time in my life. But then that chapter finished and I moved, and I started coaching Rob and other fighters. And then that chapter of my life started with the coaching fighters part. Now I'm doing like more of a family thing, and I take like work projects on that kind of suit my lifestyle, where I'm going to be able to be with my daughters and I'm going to be with my wife and my dog and the rest of it, you know. So no, in short, no, I don't miss being part of the fight camp at all. Let's see. The MMA Paul says, have you ever been with a hooker, mate? No, I have not. Michael Panzer says, what's your prediction for Holloway versus Yair? If Yair doesn't get it done early, it's going to be Holloway. Need more meds. Please do my videos. Your analysis, please do your videos. Your analysis is really good, man. Do your videos or do more videos? Oh, I don't do enough videos. Okay, I see. I'm going to keep trying. I'm going to actually keep doing more. Like tomorrow, we're doing the Justice Huni versus Paul Gallen fight, and we're going to try and do as many videos as we possibly can and interact in that. And the more you guys can like and subscribe and hit the notification bells, the more it helps, man. So please, thank you so much, guys. B. Johnson says, I still think Leon's grappling is no match for Kamaru. That's what's interesting. See, I think Leon's grappling has improved, but has it improved enough to give a run to get to Usman? I don't think so. That's the truth, and I like it. Anne says, dang it, I thought Gallen Huni was tonight. No, Wednesday. Those big fight cards in Australia, the midweek ones, are usually on a Wednesday night. Need more money says you should upload every fight event, dude. I do every UFC event, and now I've started doing the Bellator ones too. Coach, do you think we'll ever see Bobby Knuckles on the show again? We're doing our own thing, man. We don't live near each other, and we don't he's doing his own thing right now. Like, it's not like I'm not opposed to him being on the show. Like, I don't think he'll be opposed to being on the show. But right now, like, I'm not really having any guests or anything. We're just doing our own thing. Christian Lorenz says, Dorian Duck says, Fab, do you think governments hide aliens from us? You got to speak to Pip. Do it at Pip Dennison, Dorian Duck. Do at Pip Dennison and ask the same question. Christian Lorenz says, for the Rob and Izzy rematch, will you host a special edition of the show in a commentating booth of the stadium that they will fight in, or cozy studio? I think I'll probably do it from here, my friend. Ground Zero says, what do you think separates guys like Vettori and Adesanya? I think a lot of that is God-given at that stage. A lot of that is just the Israel's length, height, his reflexes, his ability to read the fight, all of that. That's just, it's not down to training anymore at that stage. B. John says, if I was Leon, let Colby, and also there's probably about 5 years between them as well. That Israel, that and that extra 5 years of Israel being at his peak. But even at his peak, I don't know that Marvin's potentially is Israel at the top. If I was Leon, let Colby and Wonderboy put more mileage on Usman. Usman is getting up there in age. He had several surgeries, no cartilage in his knees, injuries mounting. Bide your time. That's B. Johnson. That is true, my friend. But what can happen, and I agree with you, in that sense, but what can happen is Leon can't just sit out, because then somebody else has 2 or 3 wins in a row with a big following, and then they get the fight. And if you take fights in the middle, there's always a chance of you losing that fight. We are live. Fab, would you be open to train Ariel Helwani, who is leaving ESPN to join the Ultimate Fighter roster? Yes. Yes, I would be. I don't know what the background is on what you just said, so if you want to explain it to me, please do. John Price says, do you think our best athletes go into more popular sports such as AFL and rugby? Yeah, but that's everywhere in the world, save maybe Chechnya or somewhere like that. Everywhere else in the world, the best athletes go to those more popular sports because they pay the most money. In Brazil, the best athletes go to soccer by a fucking country mile. In Europe, the best players go to soccer, the best athletes go to soccer than basketball. In the US, basketball, NFL, baseball, hockey, all of those pay more than the UFC, you can, even here in Australia, it doesn't, NRL players don't get paid that well, but you'll still earn if you sign with the NRL, you'll still get $100,000 a year. That's not really that's you being on the peripheries of a team. That's not you being full thing. It's a blood sport as well. But it's hard for a fighter to earn $100,000 a year, because you people only just look at the UFC. UFC is hard for you to clear $100,000. when you're beginning. But you have to have won, man, at least 5 in a row, or 5 in a row in a good way to get to the UFC to begin with. And you would have to have acquired the skills to get to that, you know. And so, yeah, a lot of the guys are going to take, if you were playing football, you would, and you have the ability to play rugby league, you'll get your money much quicker. Beetlejuice says, I think it's a thoughts while we are high that we have no control over is what fucks people like us who are sensitive to mind-altering substances. You are 1,000% right, Beetlejuice. It's no good for me. And says, if high levels of edibles go a bit sideways, it can be harsh. Laugh out loud. Yes, it can. You know what I found out the other day? I just found this out the other day. I was talking to a friend of mine, he and his brother, and they told me this is just out of nowhere, but this is just a fucking one of those stories. The guy goes to me, you know, when my dad married so-and-so, and this girl was his sister for like 6 years. Like, it wasn't his blood sister, but it was he was his sister for 6 years. Like, he told me they were having sex this whole time, he and his stepsister. And I found that fucking weird. Is it just me that finds that weird? And he said, no, but it's not my blood sister. It's not my blood sister. And I thought, but still, like, you were brother and sister for like 5-6 years. Thoughts? Amir Muhammad says, if you had to guess which fighters are on the Juice Fab, I told you, man, I can't guess that. Vegeta launched Final Flash says, at Grange TV, any good up-and-coming fighters from Australia and New Zealand we should know about? Thanks, coach. I did. I mentioned a whole bunch, guys, earlier on in the show. Beetle just says, I'm reading an amazing book on overcoming intense, intrusive thoughts. It's brilliant. I was feeding my anxiety with ridiculous nonsense thoughts, and I'm learning how to manage them. That's fucking awesome, Beetlejuice. Drop the name of the book, man. We are live. Fab, do you have a phone for the July pay-per-view? It is stacked even more than this last pay-per-view. We will do you mean will we be doing a companion? Yeah, 100%. Okay, I'm going to skip a few. Sorry, guys, I'm skipping a few here so we can get to a few down the track there. But 27 years old, do you think maybe a shot a few? Honestly, I think so, because I think at the moment he's probably like the third or fourth best guy in that division. Clearly, like, I think, like, clear, he's like the third or fourth best. And what's going to make it even more interesting for Vettori is, what if he beats Costa? He's smart, because if he beats Costa, it's only Cannonier. Cannonier's getting older. So if he beats Costa, that leaves him, Rob. It leaves Rob and Israel, or Israel and Rob rather, because Israel's a champion right now. It leaves Israel and Rob clear away, and then him, and then what do you do? I think the middleweight division definitely needs new blood. Dude, you don't. Peter Pan says, with soccer you can make loads of money. You don't have to be in the first team. You can be in the second division and still make more money than MMA fighters. I'm trying to answer all the questions, John. Sorry, man, but thank you very much. It says, Fab, what do you specialize on when you train a fighter? Are you more of a grappling or striking coach? I'm more of a wrestling / grappling coach, but definitely not a striking coach. But my background is in coaching, like in high performance coaching. So it's a lot of putting teams together, putting programs together, putting a whole fight team together, making sure that the team gets on, making sure we have the right coaches and all of that. That's more what I do. Hanoi Tripper says AFL was 60 to sit on the bench 10 years ago. Yes, sir. Phoenix Tech says, at I'm fair enough. Okay, hold on. I'm just going through. Sorry, man. Sometimes the things have been asked 3-4 times, so I'm just going forward. Okay. Oh, Fab. A phoner is a fight night boner. Fuck, all right. Bro, check out the Conor vs. Poirier 3 card. It's stacked as. Yeah, I've seen it. That's a stacked card. Beetlejuice says the book is called Overcoming Unwanted Intrusive Thoughts by Sally Winston and Martin Seif. Guys, we are done here, guys. It's 1 hour and 40 minutes in. Sorry I couldn't get through to every single person's questions and everything. So please hit the notification bells. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. I just want to thank you guys so much for everything. Thanks to you guys, we have the show. If it wasn't for you guys, we wouldn't have the show. So I appreciate it very, 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 very much. And yeah, man, thank you so much, man. Thank you guys for everything. Take care, guys. Thank you so much. See you guys tomorrow night for Justice Horny